Welcome to today's video, where we'll dive into an intriguing and powerful topic that can shift how you view relationships. Have you ever wondered why women rarely admit their relationship mistakes, even when secretly regret their decisions? Well, stick around, because we will explore the psychology behind women's regret, how to avoid the desperation of begging, and the influential art of emotional control that can turn the tables in your favor. We'll also uncover why silence and indifference can make her question everything, and how true transformation happens in the quiet moments of self-improvement. By the end of this video, you'll understand how women think in these situations and learn how to rise above, reclaim your power, and become the unshakable man she never saw coming. So, if you're ready to discover the hidden dynamics of relationships and the keys to mastering emotional control, stay with me until the end. Let's dive in. 1. The truth about women and regret. Women often don't openly admit their mistakes in relationships. Their egos and the external validation they receive from friends make it easier to ignore their growing discomfort. Regret, however, creeps in during moments of loneliness or comparison, even if they don't recognize it immediately. For men, the key is not to chase or beg, but to create distance. Absence triggers doubt, and doubt leads to regret. Women, driven by emotions, are more likely to reflect on their decisions when left to their thoughts. When a man stops seeking validation, his emotional detachment sparks curiosity. This mystery makes her question what she lost. The Stoic principle of not clinging to what isn't yours highlights the importance of emotional independence. A man demonstrates his strength by maintaining composure and moving forward without neediness. This silence, this absence, speaks volumes. Though she may not admit it, the following doubt will make her wonder if she made the right choice. And in that wondering lies the seed of regret. 2. Why begging is the ultimate weakness. Desperation is one of a man's most unattractive traits, and nothing reveals it more clearly than begging. When you beg, you not only lower your value, but also communicate to her that you aren't confident enough in your worth to walk away. Begging shows her that you're willing to accept the tiniest scraps of her affection, but you're unwilling to demand the respect you deserve. The sad truth is that, in those moments, you lose your power, your ability to stand firm in your sense of self. A man who understands his worth will never chase a woman who has already shown disinterest. He knows that his time and energy are valuable. He does not beg for attention, affection, or validation, because he knows these things must come naturally, not out of desperation. When you chase after someone who doesn't want you, you only reaffirm her perception that you are not worth pursuing. But silence. Silence is powerful. It disrupts her sense of control and forces her to confront the reality of her decisions. Indifference is the most excellent tool at your disposal. When you stop chasing and seeking approval, you stop giving her the power to dictate your value. She will feel the energy shift and begin to question her choices. The absence of desperate pleas causes her to reflect on her feelings and to consider whether her initial judgment was accurate. In that moment, doubt creeps in. She begins to wonder if she made a mistake. It's often said that silence speaks louder than words, and in relationships that couldn't be more true. A man who has learned the art of indifference, who knows how to walk away without fear, demonstrates a rare form of strength. The man who can walk away without begging is a man who has mastered his sense of self-worth. He understands that, in the end, no relationship is worth sacrificing his dignity. In that silence, he reclaims his power. It forces her to ask herself if she truly made the right decision. The Stoic mindset teaches us that we should never depend on the actions of others for our happiness or sense of self. To beg is to give away control of your emotional well-being. By resisting the urge to plead, you retain your autonomy. In doing so, you present the most potent form of attraction, the ability to walk away from what doesn't serve you. 3. The Stoic's first move: emotional control. The first step when she decides to leave is to control your emotions. Your instincts might urge you to react with anger, sadness, or desperation, but in doing so you only confirm the decision she's made. A man who understands the art of emotional control knows that his response, or lack thereof, speaks volumes about his character. He doesn't fall into the trap of feeding her ego, whether it's through emotional pleas or defensive outbursts. True strength lies in remaining unshaken in the face of emotional turmoil. You cultivate a sense of inner peace by detaching from what is beyond your control. This is the foundation of emotional mastery, not allowing another person's actions to dictate how you feel. When you practice Stoicism, you stop seeking external validation or approval. You realize that the only opinion that matters is your own. A man who has mastered his emotions becomes untouchable. He no longer lives for the fleeting highs of approval or the crushing lows of rejection. Instead, he anchors himself in self-respect and inner discipline. He understands that emotions, like waves, come and go, but the steady force of his resolve remains constant. This mindset is not just about enduring hardship. It's about using it as an opportunity to grow stronger. When faced with her departure, your emotional response should reflect not fear or regret, but clarity and self-assurance. You are not defined by the relationship or its end. Your worth is inherent, not contingent upon her presence. In the Stoic tradition, you learn to accept what cannot be changed and shape what you can. Control what's within your power, thoughts, actions, and emotional responses, and let go of the rest. You do not need anyone to define your happiness or self-worth through this discipline. In doing so, you become the kind of man who commands respect, not because he demands it, but because he no longer requires it to feel whole. 4. The dark psychology of indifference. Indifference is not just the absence of emotion. It is a subtle yet potent weapon in relationships, far more powerful than anger or sadness. When you stop reacting to someone, especially when emotions run high, you leave them questioning themselves. They can't determine why you're unaffected by their actions or words, and that uncertainty gnaws at them. It forces them to ask about their choices, feelings, and ultimately their sense of control. The absence of your emotional reaction creates a psychological space for them to look inward and reflect. It disrupts the harmony they had grown accustomed to, and often sparks regret. In many ways, indifference is like a mirror reflecting one's actions without emotional validation. It's not about being cruel or detached. It's about recognizing that your value is not tied to their approval or reaction. This psychological distance creates a void that they subconsciously seek to fill. The more you withdraw emotionally, the more they feel the loss of the power they once held over you. They miss that connection, the validation, the assurance they once had, and without it, their ego takes a hit. They are no longer in control of your emotions, which can be a painful realization. Women, like anyone, are naturally drawn to what they cannot easily have. The more unavailable you make yourself emotionally, the more you become a mystery to them, a mystery they are compelled to solve. The subtle art of indifference taps into this dynamic in a way that creates intrigue and desire. The more distant you appear, the more they try to understand why you are unaffected, often putting themselves in situations where they must work harder to capture your attention. As Stoics have long taught, the path to true power lies not in external forces, but in mastering one's reactions. The philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." When wielded with control and self-mastery, indifference embodies this teaching. You don't need to chase validation, you simply remain steady and unwavering. In relationships, this emotional equilibrium becomes a silent force that others feel. In its quiet power, they are often drawn to you more than they would be through overt displays of affection or emotion. Indifference is not a rejection. It's the recognition that your emotional well-being is not dependent on the ebb and flow of someone else's moods. It's the ultimate expression of self-respect. And when that respect is shown to others, especially in the context of love and relationships, it can be intoxicating. Women can't help but wonder what they're missing. In that wondering, they begin to seek something more profound and genuine. This connection transcends emotional manipulation and plays instead on the invisible strings of desire, intrigue, and ego. In this space, both parties are forced to evolve. The chase becomes less about seeking approval and more about understanding the deeper complexities of human nature. Indifference shifts the power dynamics, clarifying that emotional availability is not a given. It is earned through respect, self-sufficiency, and a clear sense of identity that fleeting emotions cannot shake. And it's this emotional resilience that becomes the ultimate attraction. 5. The power of rebuilding in silence. Actual growth does not demand an audience. It happens in the shadows, away from the distractions of the world and the noise of others' expectations. A man who focuses on rebuilding himself does so without fanfare or declarations. His transformation is not for anyone's approval, especially not for his ex. It's an internal evolution, a deep commitment to refining the mind, body, and purpose. This is not about proving something to her or anyone else. It's about becoming someone who commands respect because he respects himself. Regret doesn't strike immediately after a breakup. Initially, there's anger, sadness, and maybe even relief. But genuine regret comes later, quietly, when she notices that you are thriving without her. The world you've built, which is not dependent on her presence, becomes impossible to ignore. She sees you evolving and wonders how she could have been blind to the strength you always had within you. And at this moment, when you are no longer available to her emotional whims, she begins to realize what she's lost. The focus of your journey should be self-improvement, not to win her back, but to live for yourself. When genuinely focused on your growth, your actions will speak louder than any words ever could. Your body strengthens, your mind sharper, and your purpose more apparent. This isn't a strategy to catch her attention. It's an expression of the man you are becoming. The more you invest in yourself, the more you build an untouchable version that no one can diminish or disrupt. Only when you have risen to this level will the right people begin to notice. And when your worth is no longer questioned, others, especially her, will see you differently. There's power in silence. The quiet moments of dedication to yourself create an undeniable force that speaks louder than any public declaration could. It's not about waiting for her to realize what she's missing. It's about building a life that is so fulfilling that you don't need her to complete it. In time, the tables turn, and it's no longer about her choosing you, but about you choosing the life you've created. One that doesn't need validation, only appreciation. 6. The inevitable return. Women don't always return because they miss you. Often, it's because they miss the power they once had over you. Something shifts when you stop chasing and step back into your growth and self-improvement. She starts to wonder if she made a mistake, and that's when the subtle games begin. She may test you, not out of longing, but out of curiosity. Does she still have that hold on you? A simple reaction to your social media posts, a casual text, or a harmless comment on your life aren't just innocent actions. They're a way of measuring whether you're still in her orbit. It's a method of checking if you're still emotionally available, attached, and in a place where she holds the power. But here's the trap. You relinquish control if you engage with her in response. You give her the satisfaction of knowing she still has a place in your life. In this delicate dance, every response you give her pulls you back into the cycle of seeking her validation. You're back to square one, where the balance of power tips in her favor. On the other hand, if you stay indifferent and act as though her actions don't affect you, you maintain the upper hand. This isn't about being cold or distant. It's about recognizing the game and choosing not to play. You regain control when you stop giving her the emotional reactions she's testing for. You become a force she can't predict. This unpredictability shifts the dynamic entirely. In the words of Stoic philosophy, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. The enemy in this case is the emotional tug-of-war. If you don't fall for the games and rise above the temptation to prove anything, you put yourself in a position of strength. The key is not to chase validation. When you stop seeking approval from someone who's emotionally testing you, you show them that you are content within yourself. And that's when they start wondering what they've lost. This power shift isn't about manipulation, it's about self-mastery. When you focus on your growth and your own life, you stop giving others the power to define your worth. And that's when you start winning, not just in relationships, but in life itself. 7. The test when she reaches out. When she reaches out to you, it's never a simple check-in, it's a test. A silent measure of how much control she still has over your emotions and actions. She wants to see if she can still make you react, stir up the old feelings, and regain the sense of power she once held. This is the moment when emotional detachment becomes your greatest strength. Responding eagerly or with visible emotion, whether it's joy, anger, or even confusion, is precisely what she's hoping for. It gives her the validation she's searching for, the reassurance that she still occupies a special place in your world, that your attention can be effortlessly summoned. But a man who understands the importance of his growth knows better. He does not let her attempts at re-entry distract him from the path he's on. True emotional resilience, as Stoic philosophy teaches, lies in detachment. A man who is focused on self-improvement does not entertain these distractions. Instead, he remains firm and unshaken. His response is one of polite indifference, acknowledging her communication without letting it affect his peace or course. In this moment, he demonstrates that she no longer holds the power to disrupt his life. He has moved beyond the past, and she is left with nothing but the realization that her influence has waned. In these moments of contact, remember that the greatest act of strength is not in responding, but in resisting the urge to engage. Be indifferent, not cruel, not hostile, just unaffected. The Stoics would say, it's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. True power is in your response, or better yet, in your lack of response. Show her that you are no longer her emotional pawn, but a man who controls his destiny, undisturbed by the echoes of past relationships. 8. Beyond her, becoming the unshakable man. The true power a man seeks does not lie in making her regret, but in transforming himself. The real journey begins when a man shifts his focus inward, prioritizing his growth over external validation. It's easy to think that power comes from the recognition of others, from her admiring glances or validating your worth. But this, as the Stoics remind us, is fleeting and unreliable. True power, true strength, is not shaped by the ebb and flow of external forces. Instead, it's born from within. A man who becomes unshakable has mastered this internal shift. He does not need to be validated by her presence or absence. Her approval is no longer the bar by which he measures his worth. He no longer seeks closure from her. He finds it within himself. The Stoics, like Epictetus, taught us that what lies beyond our control is not worth our energy. Her actions, words, and opinions are outside your control. They cannot define you unless you allow them to. When a man is focused on his growth, he becomes impervious to the chaos of relationships. His peace does not hinge on her feelings or decisions. He becomes the calm in the storm, no longer tossed around by the uncertainty of others. This is the foundation of true power, not in seeking her regret, but in becoming the man who stands firm in his value. The process is not easy, and it doesn't happen overnight. It requires discipline, dedication, and above all, a deep understanding of oneself. You are on the path to unshakable strength when you shift your attention from what she does to what you can become. As Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When your thoughts are focused on growth and becoming your best version, nothing outside you can disturb your peace. In this journey, there will be times when doubt creeps in, when you wonder if it's all worth it. But remember this: true transformation never happens through the lens of regret or resentment. It happens when you stop living for others and start living for yourself. The unshakable man no longer needs closure from the past. He has learned to look forward with purpose and clarity. When you've embraced this, you become unmovable and grounded in yourself, and that is power which can never be taken from you. 9. The final lesson. She'll never admit it, but she feels it. She may never admit it, but her actions always speak louder than words. She feels it, whether it's liking your posts on social media or reacting to your accomplishments with an unexpected smile. Deep down, the regret exists, but she may never voice it, instead hiding it behind a carefully curated silence. She won't say it, but you'll see it in the subtle ways she checks in on your life, the way her eyes linger on your success, and that's okay, because the key is not to force her to recognize her regret. The key lies in how you handle it. True victory doesn't come from proving her wrong or making her feel guilty for walking away. It comes from a place of inner strength, where her regret no longer touches you. You have to reach a point where her actions mean nothing to you, whether she admits them or not. A man who chooses to walk away and focus solely on his growth becomes untouchable. His life continues to evolve, and in his focus he finds fulfillment that goes beyond anything she could ever offer. When you stop seeking closure from someone who has already turned the page, you begin to experience true freedom. Your success becomes the final word. It's in how you rise above the past and direct your energy toward the future. Every step forward is a statement that you've outgrown the emotional entanglements that once held you back. The man who learns to let go finds that life has much more to offer. He gains new opportunities and connections that add value rather than drain it. The world opens up, not because you begged for validation, but because you claimed your path. The ultimate success is not about making her regret. It's about becoming so powerful and focused that her regret doesn't matter. It's in the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you are no longer tied to the past. You are walking a new road, and the world around you shifts as you do. Opportunities arise, people respect you, and new relationships blossom. Relationships built on who you are now, not who you were. When you focus on self-improvement and push forward, you become the man who cannot be touched by the fleeting moments of someone else's doubts. Letting go of the past means embracing the future with open arms. When you stop looking behind you, life rewards you with everything you need to keep moving forward. And the best part? The more you grow, the more you realize that the opinions of those who didn't choose you no longer have a place in your heart. Final thoughts: the art of moving on and mastering yourself. At the core of everything we've discussed today, the true power doesn't lie in making her regret. It lies in you transforming into the best version of yourself and no longer needing validation from her or anyone else. We've explored how absence creates doubt, how indifference shatters ego, and how emotional control is the cornerstone of strength. But ultimately, the most important lesson is this: the real victory is found in focusing on your growth, not your regret. Regret may come, but will be silent, subtle, and often unspoken. She may never directly admit it, but her actions will tell the story. The way she watches from a distance, checks your social media, or reacts to your success are the signs that she feels the weight of her decisions. And yet, none of this should matter to you. True power comes when you are so detached from the past, so focused on your journey, that her regret doesn't even faze you. You become untouchable when you learn to rebuild in silence and channel your energy into self-improvement, not for anyone else but for yourself. And as you confidently move forward, life will begin to reward you. New opportunities, connections, and a future full of respect and growth will unfold. So, I encourage you to take a step back, reflect on your journey, and let go of the past. Your transformation is your ultimate flex, and when you become unshakable, you won't be untouchable to her, but to anyone who doubts your worth. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever experienced this kind of personal growth or emotional detachment? What was the moment you realized you no longer needed validation from someone who once held power over you? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Let's build a space for reflection and growth, where we can learn from each other's journeys. If you found value in this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on more insights about relationships, personal mastery, and how to become the unshakable man you were always meant to be. See you in the next one.